You best start believing in podcasts, Miss Turner, because you're listening to one.
Why do you sound Scottish?
I don't know.
You have a shrill.
Oh. All right, that was cringe. But that's how we start Project Geekology each and every week. And if you don't...
if you don't vibe with that,
we'll put a curse on you. Walk the plank, bro. All right. No, today we're going to be talking all about Pirates of the Caribbean. A movie that is...
really good.
Well, the first one, Curse of the Black Pearl.
Yes, we're just going to be covering today the Curse of the Black Pearl, the 2003 movie by Gore Verbinski, produced by Jerry Bruckheimer. We're very excited. All of us are big fans of the Pirates franchise. But, as always, my name is Dakota. I'm joined with...
Anthony.
And we have a special guest this week.
Jen.
Yes, the sometimes lovely Jen.
What?
Always lovely. She's
unofficial Project Geekology third member.
Yes.
That comes from the couch over to this chair to film with you all.
Our cheapest and only guest.
I honor you.
She decided to come out of the D&D dungeon to join us.
Yeah, this week. So we usually record on Thursdays, and it works because Jen has other stuff going on Thursdays with a D&D group, and that just kind of like leaves a couple hours for us to just, talk about whatever the topic of the week is for the podcast. But for the occasional podcast, we have things that, all of us want to get involved in, and this is one of those things that each of us want to talk about. Jen, what is your relationship with Pirates of the Caribbean?
This is a film near and dear to my heart. That's why I was inclined to acquiesce to your request. I remember when Dakota and I first started dating, his dad and mom took us out for dinner for the first time, and they're really into movies. And they asked me, what's your favorite movie? It was, one of the first questions. And I was really nervous because I know that they're into movies. And in my head, I immediately thought Pirates of the Caribbean. But I was like, you can't say that. You can't say Pirates of the Caribbean. And I said something else. I think I ended up saying Pride and Prejudice because I think I just had Keira Knightley on the mind. But yeah, I really like it. It's one of my favorite movies. I like it a lot. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, dude, having watched it this week for, our rewatch, I can honestly say it has held up so well.
It really has. The quality of the movie has withstood time. It still looks great.
Mm-hmm.
Still looks great. The jokes still land. The acting is perfect. And the setting is just immaculate. They totally nail a Pirates in the Caribbean movie.
Right. Because, I don't, usually when you see pirate movies, they're really super campy.
Mm-hmm.
And while they kind of tap into that sometimes, it's not cringe. When you look back on
I think
old
it's kinda
pirate
dirty.
movies.
It's a bit dirty and gritty. And outright gross,
Right.
honestly. You have a guy whose eyeball is just falling out a bunch of times throughout the movie, which is a bit gross.
Yeah,
I know, dirty man sleeping with a pig in the pig pen.
Right. I think with Pirates movies, it's really easy to just make a bunch of caricatures of what we think of as pirates. Guy with the peg leg and the bird. But they kind of spread those characteristics of the, typical Long John Silver character type, across a big swath of characters, and they give this guy this quirky personality type, and this guy the peg leg, and this guy the bird that squawks and says "dead men tell no tales" and stuff like that. So I love what they did with that, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. We're skipping a very major and important time-honored tradition on this podcast, and this is our 25th episode.
25.
It's been a couple weeks since we recorded last. I think last time we recorded was March 18th, so almost a month.
Oh my goodness.
Over 3 weeks at this point since we've recorded last.
Hey Dakota, I have a joke for you.
Uh-oh. What is it?
What's better than 24?
25?
25.
Wow. That was really good.
That was not a good joke. I'm sorry.
That was a SpongeBob reference,
this, like, really
okay?
maniacal smirk.
That was a SpongeBob reference, which is relevant because that's a nautical theme too.
Ah, that's true.
You keep telling yourself that, Anthony. You keep telling yourself that.
Which
They also have Davy Jones in SpongeBob, so it is connected.
they
Okay.
also have Davy Jones. Dude, we need to do an episode on SpongeBob.
So
man.
good.
Just like the first 3 seasons, though, because after that, like, pretty much all the memes and stuff that we remember from SpongeBob comes from the first 3 seasons. Even though they've continued to make them for years. But anyway, let's get on to our usual topic. What have we been up to this past week? But for, the 3 of us, it's been 3 weeks. So, Anthony, why don't you go ahead and start? Because, Jen and I kind of do the same thing because we live right next to each other.
Yeah, you and Jen have been jam-packed. Well, the past 3 weeks, they've been pretty good. As Jen and Dakota know, I left my old job in retail, and now I work in a bank.
Congratulations, by the way. I'm super happy for you. I don't know about Jen. I don't think Jen is as happy, but I'm happy.
I envy you.
Jen is semi-happy.
I'm waiting to plot my revenge.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty excited and I'm glad to be there, and it really clears off my schedule for us to schedule these podcasts better too, because a lot of our scheduling conflicts were because I'd be working too late, and then you work early, and you don't want to, you can't stay up too late because you have to wake up early the next day. So this really helps out.
I wake up around 5:30 for work on my average
right
day.
So this really clears things up, and it's been a good I made my first week, and it's been good.
They haven't fired you yet.
Right.
The most important thing.
Yeah.
What have you been up to, I guess, fandom wise or geek wise?
Well, I rewatched Pirates of the Caribbean twice in these 3 weeks. Once I watched it last week because originally we had scheduled to record last week. I don't know what happened, and then I watched it again because I wanted to have a pretty fresh take, and so I watched it yesterday as of recording. I've been doing that. I've been playing the phone version of League of Legends. It's called League of Legends Wild Rift.
Oh, you had mentioned that when last we saw you, actually. You haven't mentioned it on the podcast. Tell us a little bit more about that.
So, League of Legends Wild Rift is a phone version of League of Legends. Now, the basic gameplay is there, the way to play, but it's optimized for phones. So you're not going to have the same exact experience that you're going to have on a PC, just because it's a lot quicker with mouse and keyboard on a PC. And you don't have all the characters there.
So you're not going to be playing against people on PC and stuff, are you?
Right. Yeah, so it's League of Legends, but it's its own game.
Okay.
It's a separate game, but it still plays out the same.
Sounds fun.
I've been playing that, and I've been playing Monster Hunter Rise. Now that's been really fun to jump into. It's a really cool formula that they went with, because it has a lot of aspects of it from the older games, the way that you level up your hunter rank, some of the ways that the game mechanics are. And then there's a lot that they took from Monster Hunter World to kind of make the gameplay a little more smooth. It's really fun. I like it.
Have you been catching up with Falcon and Winter Soldier?
Yes.
What are your thoughts on that?
I enjoy it.
Yeah?
I enjoy it. And never in my life did I ever think that I would like Baron Zemo.
Dude, he's so good. He's the best character in the show.
I know. I was like, how do you take I mean, they did with Loki, but I mean, it's remember how they left off on Baron Zemo? You're oh, I don't care for this guy. And they took that guy and they made him so like enjoyable. Like this guy's just like, this guy's like, you know, like getting in there, dancing, and I'm like, oh, okay, Baron Zemo, okay.
Yeah, and we know
like,
we know him from Civil War, like December 16th, 1991. Such a freak.
Yeah, activating this the super soldiers and stuff. But yeah, it's been a good show. It's more along the lines of the Marvel formula, as far, you know, like kind of like how their movies are. WandaVision was a bit of a break from that, but
a huge break from that.
I enjoy it. Yeah, it was. Did
you watch the most recent episode or no? The one that released today?
No, I have not.
Okay, no spoilers.
Pretty much like when I got off of work, I worked on some others. I was working on some stuff, and then I ate dinner.
All right. Well, you text me when you watch it, because today's episode is crazy.
It was good.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, man, I loved
intense.
last week's.
I think
last week's I was just like fantastic.
I think you might like retract a bit what you were saying about it being like the Marvel formula. Right, with this week, I feel like it was quite.
No, it's not that it's not the Marvel formula.
You don't think so?
No, it still feels very Marvel.
It felt Marvel, but to me, it felt different.
Yes, there are different aspects of it, but at the end of the day, they're playing on
Animatronic.
Oh yeah, our dog's walking in the background, and Anthony thinks Luna, that's her name, looks like an animatronic dog.
She's an animatronic puppy.
The going joke is that their dog is not real, and that they stole it from a Disney ride. Well, they stole the dog from the Pirates of the Caribbean.
She does actually look like that dog, kind of.
Yeah, she kind of looks like the dog from the Pirates of the Caribbean ride. Which,
yeah, that's all I did. How about you guys? Like, what have you all been up to?
Well, I mean, it's a pretty good segue talking about our animatronic dog that we stole from Disney World, specifically the Pirates of the Caribbean ride, because we were actually in Disney World, Jen and I. We went down for our anniversary.
Well, we went down to see his family.
Yes, we did that too, but while we were down, they're so close to Orlando, might as well make a trip to the park. So we had a great time. I think we should specifically talk about the Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah, if we start talking about Disney in general, like the whole episode's going to be about that. So.
We should probably make a Disney World episode.
I would have so much to say, actually.
Yes.
Because there's so much to talk about with, you know, just the culture around Disney World. You can go into the food that you eat, the different rides that are in each of the different parks. What are your favorite parks? You know, different types of things that you can do or collect or see. So, yeah.
It is a culture of its own. It's a complete culture.
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking, too, when we were going through the Pirates ride, just because, like, the first time Dakota and I ever went to Disney World together, he was like, I love the Pirates of the Caribbean ride. I love the smell of it. And I was like, that's weird. And then when I went onto the ride, I'm like, wow,
you know what I'm talking about, Anthony, right? Like, everyone knows... Everyone knows what the Pirates of the Caribbean smell is.
No, well, they actually, like, put, like, scented... Like, each room is scented slightly differently.
Yeah,
like, you can... Yeah, you can, like, smell it. Like, they put aromas.
That's
and they did it with the Pandora ride as well.
Right, yeah, they did. Like, the really Pandora ride smells like flowers.
Like when you see the flowers, that's why they have like they put like the smell of gun smoke in the air and like the battle scenes or just like sea smells and stuff. It's not it's not just like the like dirty ride water. It's it's like actually, actual perfumes.
It's heavily filtered water actually in the Pirates ride.
Although just to be assured, there is that dirty ride water smell when you're waiting in line. When you get closer to the ride.
Yeah,
yeah, it's like all gritty smelling.
It's the I think it's the platform and like the actual boats themselves that stink because
they have like a stench
they're covered
to
in
them
water. But yeah, I mean
that's stagnant.
The fact that Disney created a movie series, like a franchise, and a very profitable franchise off of a ride that, you know, first originated in Disneyland and then they brought to Disney World, which wasn't an IP in and of itself. It was just a thing that they put into Adventureland and made something so spectacular, like story-wise. Adapting it to film is so cool, in my opinion.
We were actually reading a bit about it, like when it came to the Orlando park as opposed to LA. I thought it was really funny because I guess from what I've read, I haven't been to the California Disneyland, but that ride is quite a bit bigger. And like, I guess the parks decided not to spend as much money on the one in Orlando, which is alright, but the reason is hilarious. They said because Orlando is so close to the Caribbean, they were worried people wouldn't care. Like, what does that
But that
even
doesn't
mean?
even, like, when I heard that, it made me laugh, because I was born in Miami. Anthony, you live in Homestead. It's hilarious because it's not like nobody's pirates down there. I mean, no.
It's like, oh, they're all already pirates. They won't care.
It's like some Disney exec at some point was just like, I don't know, maybe they're already pirates. Maybe we shouldn't invest too much money into this ride. Like, what does that mean?
No sense.
I mean, everybody knows that down here in Miami, we're all pirates. Why would I go to a pirates ride when I could just hop onto my pirate ship that I have in my backyard?
Exactly.
And drive down the canal. Yeah.
Yeah, down the canal. And just fire off my cannons into like people's houses.
Shoot alligators.
For real. I know, like Captain Hook style.
But even, like, based on, like, Disney fans, like, I don't know. I mean, I could be wrong, but from the little, like, I've only been into Disney for a couple of years now, but, like, on Reddit and Twitter and stuff, like, any changes, they don't seem to react well. So I'm curious to know, like, how they would have reacted to the fact that their beloved ride was now getting a film series of its own. Like, I wonder if they would have been, like, excited, or if they would have been like, they're gonna ruin this, you know? They're gonna change the whole ride with new animatronics.
Oh, I don't know. Because they're also doing that with Jungle Book now. Or, Jungle Cruise.
Yeah.
Emily Blunt and The Rock are going to be skippers on the cruise line. So I'm excited about that too. Look, if they can make a movie that is like as good as Pirates of the Caribbean with another like fantastic Disney ride, that's in my ballpark. I'm so excited for that.
That's nice.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch that for sure. And the next time I go on to...
Watch it be amazing.
And the next time I go on to Jungle Cruise, I'm gonna want the same experience that they have in the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they're already, like, changing the animatronics and stuff like that. And if... People are kind of, like... I guess with this, though, they're changing all of the ride before the movie even comes out. Which is why people are upset. But with Pirates, it was the same exact ride, and then they changed stuff later.
They changed the ride, like, 6 or 7 years after the movie.
Yeah, so that's true. It's a bit different.
The Pirates ride really needs to like update their like Barbossa and like the cruise, like the like in the like cruise at Rigetti and Pinto.
Wait, do they have a Barbossa?
Yeah, there's a Barbossa.
Oh yeah. No, you're right. In the initial part where they're shooting cannon fire.
I like the red
Right,
girl,
when they're shooting cannon
in
fire in Port Royal, they got the captain on the ship that's like yelling out orders. That's Barbossa.
You're right. I totally forgot.
They need to like update that Barbossa because I mean in the movies, my boy he's awesome.
Yeah, he's really cool.
Yeah, it was almost like an afterthought, but I mean it's cool. It's cool that they have put those characters in. What's the chick in the red dress that's in the ride?
I think it's like Scarlet.
Scarlet. She's a new character that they added to a new animatronic that they added to the ride.
She's really cool.
Relatively recently, because I don't always remember her being in it from like when I was a kid. But yeah, she's a cool character. If I'd like to see her in potential future movies with pirates. So we enjoyed our time in Disney World. Enjoyed time visiting family.
We visited Dakota's great grandparents that are like super old and super cute. I love them so much.
We'll be back after a quick break.
I hate talking.
Do you love talking about any topic and are never frustrated during conversations? Then I Hate Talking is not a podcast for you.
But if there are topics that you avoid, then listen to I Hate Talking.
Do you know the definition of every word others use? I Hate Talking is not a podcast for you.
But if you are curious about the definition and historical usage of words, then listen to I Hate Talking.
Do you know about current events and other random topics? Then I Hate Talking is not a podcast for you.
But if you enjoy conversations on a variety of topics, then listen to I Hate Talking.
Listen to I Hate Talking wherever you get your podcasts.
Episodes drop every Thursday. Listen, like, and follow I Hate Talking today.
Yeah, they're pretty cool. They're 95. Can't believe they're still walking about and talking pretty normally. It is a blessing. So I'm really happy about that. That I'm still able to have that relationship. So, but other than that, we've been watching a lot of
Frozen.
Yeah, so okay, we've been watching a lot of Disney movies and stuff, and one of those things, including Raya and the Last Dragon. Anthony, you watched that too?
Yes. Oh yeah. Since our last recording, Dakota and I and Jen, we all got to like hang out with each other. That was awesome.
And,
yeah, it was really nice.
We got to watch Raya together. Anthony hadn't seen it.
Yes, Project Ecology in one room. Finally.
At long last. So that was good. And then, so one of the rides that we went on in Disney World was the Frozen...
Ever After.
Was it Frozen Ever After? I don't...
Isn't that what it's
is
called?
that what it's called? I don't know. There's a ride in Epcot in the Norway Pavilion.
That was cool.
That was actually pretty good. It was, Frozen,
it's not like super riveting because it's for kids, obviously, but... It's just super cute. Like, you go, like, backwards, and there's a lot of snow.
Down a waterfall, and there's a giant, like, ice creature thing that she makes in the first movie. So it's actually a pretty cool little ride, and it got me thinking, like, I gotta give Frozen another chance. Because we watched it a couple years ago at this point, and we did a review on Geekritique where we kind of just, like, chewed it apart.
I was just bummed out because I felt like the song was what was popular, and then everybody was hyping it up, but then you had movies like Tangled that are freaking amazing, and nobody was showing Tangled as much love as they did with Frozen.
Right.
But then when Frozen 2 came out, I was like, that's really, really good. And I cried, and I loved it.
Yeah, Frozen 2, I feel, makes Frozen 1 better. And this past week was the first time I had rewatched Frozen since seeing Frozen 2, and I was, like, amazed by how much better Frozen 1 is, with some of the answers that are like included in Frozen 2. So watched those two movies, ended up going down this huge Frozen rabbit hole.
When Dakota goes down a rabbit hole, it's like something that Alice wouldn't even dream of doing. Like, it's beyond your wildest imaginations. Like, so this past week we watched both movies. Well, we never finished the second one the second time, but Frozen 1 we watched twice. Frozen 2 we've watched 1.5 times. He's read 2 books. He's watched all of the, like, special edition things that they have on Disney+.
The animated shorts.
You watched, like, a documentary? You watched a documentary on it?
I started it, yeah.
Yeah, look at it. Look at this guy go.
Yeah, so I'm potentially making a Frozen timeline video, and...
Oh my gosh.
It's challenging, because the timeline is a little messy. But... Anyway, so that's what we've been up to. We've probably all done a lot more than that. Played a lot more games, watched a lot more TV and movies and stuff. But we should get into our actual discussion of Pirates of the Caribbean. Jen, start us off.
A sea shanty is being sung. It's bad luck. It brings pirates. We see Elizabeth Swann and the guy who's been grooming her for a really long time.
Yeah, creep.
What the hell? We see not Orlando Bloom, but his younger version, floating on up.
Yeah.
Bootstrap Bill Turner's son. That we don't know that's him, but...
Man overboard.
Yeah, man overboard.
They bring him on. He's got a pirate medallion on his
Elizabeth
neck.
Swann, she just heard that pirates get hung. At her young age, she wants to protect him. She takes the medallion.
Hung at the galley, yeah.
But... I don't think you need a play-by-play. If
no,
you're listening,
we don't
they probably
need,
watch the movie.
We don't need a play-by-play. But I do like the opening very much because it sets the entire mood of the movie. Mm-hmm. You get some of the main characters.
And Mr. Gibbs is there too, which is like kind of random.
Well, I mean, it's in character it's actually really good that Mr. Gibbs is in that first scene because it shows that character type that you can be. That you can be a merchant, you can be a soldier, a naval officer, but if you go down in your luck, if you start becoming a drunkard or whatever, it's so easy to fall into the life of a pirate.
But he was already a pirate because he was already knowledgeable about pirates.
I don't think he was.
Oh, he hadn't been a pirate at all yet?
I mean, maybe he had done a little bit of it, but...
Pirateering?
A little pirateering. But no, I don't think he was because... being a ship or I don't know if he was a captain at the time, but being a deckhand and everything, being on the sea, he would know all the legends of pirates and the Black Pearl and stuff like that.
That's true.
And pirate sea shanties like Yo Ho, Yo Ho, Pirate's Life for me.
Yes.
That song is bad luck if you sing it outside. Right.
Side note, that song, when you're going through the Pirates of the Caribbean ride, my favorite part as a kid is still my favorite part as an adult. It's when you go under the bridge and that guy's like, he's got like a barrel of, I assume it's rum, and his dirty feet are like just dangling above you, like swaying one way or the other. I thought that was the grossest thing as a kid, like having feet that are that dirty. But it's still like so funny to me that they haven't changed that.
Dude, I thought I was the only one that thought that. I remember like every time I go on that ride and like I see that guy's feet, I'm like, that's disgusting. I hope this guy does not fall on me with those disgusting feet.
That's stupid animatronic. I hope it doesn't ever
that dirty pirate animatronic.
Well, what's funny about that is, as a kid, you don't think about them being animatronics. You just think about them like swaying to and fro, like in the same spot. Like you don't realize as a kid that they're locked down. So it's very feasible that guy could fall on you because he's clearly drunk. So it's cool. It's funny, but yeah. So the beginning of the movie, I think it's a pretty good opening because it kind of gives that creepy, mysterious, and dark mood that sets the tone for the rest of the movie. Specifically introducing Elizabeth Swann as someone who's particularly curious about pirates and the pirate code and pirate legend, and Will Turner, who seems to... he doesn't really say all that much in the first part of the movie because he's unconscious.
Gasping for breath.
He's unconscious for the most part. But it explains his past a little bit, but also gives us quite a bit of intrigue there as well. And then we jump a couple years forward to the day that she is proposed to.
Mm-hmm. What I like, and I think this is interesting, and something that I noticed throughout the entire film, is that there's like kind of this like serendipity or maybe just sheer luck. I don't know. I just feel like it's like the whole world that they're in, like clearly there is some kind of like superstition. Like superstition is very much real. Like you all, like everybody knows, like sailors and pirates, all of them are so superstitious. But I just thought it was like the weirdest thing that it just so happens that the morning that Elizabeth is going to fall into the water, she decides to put the medallion on. A medallion that's like underneath a drawer, super dusty. She hasn't touched it this whole time. You know, for the most part, like you can see how dirty it is. And then she decides to put it on that day because she's thinking about Will Turner, and that's when she gets proposed to and falls into the ocean, starting the whole plot. It's like clearly, I don't know, it's almost felt like this was all destined to happen.
Yeah, I like where you're going with that, because especially the idea of the entire lot of them being a superstitious people. You know, being around people in the Caribbean growing up and knowing some of the culture from some of the islands, superstition is super heavy in the Caribbean. So I can only imagine during pirate times when there was, you know, active like shipwrecks and, you know, lawlessness, that superstitions would be heightened in that time period. So that kind of plays on that. Whether or not she is superstitious, I don't think that is necessarily the case in this movie. But it was interesting that it was because she put the medallion on that set in motion the rest of the plot.
Mm-hmm. It was literally just her thinking about Will. And I feel like the whole story is about her and Will. Mm-hmm. You know, it's about so many other things, but if it weren't for the fact that those two characters had chemistry, the rest of the plot wouldn't really have happened, because she probably would have just, like, thrown the medallion out or something like that, you know?
Yeah.
And she's always had an interest in pirates, so it's almost like that was her calling. Like, that's what she was supposed to be and do.
Do you think that the corset that she was wearing was actually so tight that she was losing the ability to breathe, or was there something else going on? Like, was she actually just so shocked by James Norrington proposing to her?
I thought that, like, that actually used to happen. Like, women used to faint pretty... Like, you know, that's kind of like a trope that women faint. I feel like corsets used to make it easier to faint. But I also kind of thought because that was like the first corset in their part of town, it was from London or whatever, that they didn't know that they couldn't tie it so tightly.
Possibly.
But I feel like that's something I should have researched. I hadn't really thought about it.
Well, I mean, I don't think that these movies were super historically accurate with their costumage, but you get some of that.
She just doesn't seem like the type of girl who, and that's like kind of a joke that later on she pretends to faint. Like, she doesn't seem like the type of girl who would faint at like an awkward situation.
That's true. Yeah, because
that's what makes me think it's the corset.
Several times throughout the movie, she is put into situations that are arguably,
way worse. And she's like, oh crap.
Yeah, and
but she handles it.
She takes them in stride. I mean, as in stride as you can with a deck full of skeletons. But so Anthony, what are your favorite parts about the beginning of the movie?
Well, before I get into that, I'm gonna backtrack a few of our episodes all the way to the Phantom Menace. Keira Knightley, that plays Elizabeth Swann, is actually in the Phantom Menace.
Mm-hmm.
She plays Sabe, one of
Padme's handmaidens.
Yeah, one of Padme's handmaidens / like decoys. So I thought that looking back on that, I thought that was a cool like little crossover right there.
I think that was one of her first roles, actually, Keira Knightley.
Which I think is interesting now watching it, because when I watched The Phantom Menace, like, I instantly recognized Keira Knightley.
Yeah.
And I know, I saw that when I was much older, so I knew who Keira Knightley was, and I was like, is that Keira Knightley? Like, what is happening? Where she was supposed to be just like a decoy girl that nobody noticed. She's really funny.
She broke out in Pirates.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if the Phantom Menace came out today, if we as adults would have been as fooled as we were when we were kids that Padme was actually the queen. And
you guys were actually fooled by that?
Okay, so you're actually a good case study, because as kids we don't recognize.
But I already knew that the role was, what's her name?
Keira Knightley and Natalie Portman.
Natalie Portman.
Yeah.
So I was like, that's Natalie Portman.
I mean, as kids, I didn't know any of these actors or actresses, so
yeah.
Yeah,
it's because of all the actors like ended up being pretty big that I was just able to know. Okay, that's Natalie Portman, obviously.
Yeah.
All right. I was fooled.
Back to Pirates. This is also the introduction of possibly the best pirate that they've ever seen.
It's up for debate.
It's in the eye of the beholder.
Right. And then we're also introduced before then to an older Will Turner, which is played by Orlando Bloom. And that was a time where you saw Orlando Bloom in like everything.
Yeah, this was 2003, so this was the year that Return of the King had come out. So he had previously, before this film had come out, he had already been in two pretty major Lord of the Rings movies, and his stardom was really shooting up at this point because everyone loves Legolas.
Mm-hmm. I know I do.
I know you do. We don't get a lot on Will Turner, but you understand pretty early on that Elizabeth Swann is pretty infatuated with him. She doesn't seem to have any mind to, even think about, what's his name? James Norrington?
Poor guy.
But whenever she and Will Turner are in the same room, there's just this tension in the air. Like, you can feel it. Like, they know each other from when they were kids, but they clearly both have crushes on each other.
Yeah, and I like when she's like, how many times have I told you to call me Elizabeth? And he's like, always one more time, or something like that. Yeah. It's just so cute.
At least once more.
Yeah.
At least once more. Yeah, there's some really good lines in this movie. If only, they're very movie lines. Like, you can't really say that in real life. But it's well written, and the story doesn't really get old, which I'm really happy about.
He sells that speak so well because, and I feel that being in Lord of the Rings helped him out a lot, because that kind of old English type of speaking was used a lot in those two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he had the like a certain poise that I think he brought, not directly from his character of Legolas, but a little bit of like.
It was an influence.
A little of the stoicness of Legolas he brought to the character of Will Turner. So that was really cool. I would say the main character of the movie, although I don't think he's actually the main character of the movie, but like he's the character everyone remembers is Captain Jack Sparrow. He has in each of the Pirates movies, his entrance is increasingly more ridiculous.
Yes. But it's so fitting for the character.
I know. It's so good. It's so funny. Anthony, why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Oh man, his entrance into into the harbor of Port Royal is less than spectacular. I mean, he's coming in on and it's not like a huge ship or anything. It's a small boat. But he's coming in, and his boat is sinking.
Yeah.
As he's coming into the port. And, it's hilarious because he's where, like, the crow's nest would be, and he's just, like, standing there. He's got this, like, heroic, like, look going on while the ship is, like, sinking.
And the camera's panning out, and you're realizing, like, oh, the ship is going down, but it's like, he lands so perfectly on the harbor. It's so funny.
It is so funny that, yeah, it like, sinks perfectly to the level where he needs to step off.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, again, that, like, luck and serendipity that's, like, it just happens, like, things just work out for him, you know?
Well, I mean, that's Captain Jack Sparrow. Like, he's probably the most unlucky and lucky person in one pirate, you know?
I know,
everything
really?
that could go wrong does go wrong, but everything that could fix the problem does fix the problem.
Yeah, I know. His character has such a weird balance when it comes to, like, fortune and unluckiness.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. But I love... This is, like, one of the reasons why his character is so memorable is the mannerisms. And I love that after he steps onto the dock, the harbor master is like, oh, that it's like 3 or like 2 shillings to like tie up the dock, and he needs his name. And then Jack looks back at the boat, but like the way he does it, it's kind of like, oh. He's like you know what I'm talking about, like the way
like
he
his
looks,
eyes are
like,
always in the process of focusing.
It's almost
exactly,
like he has
like
perpetual sea legs, but not just in his legs, but like in like all of his bodily movements.
Well, he actually, like, I think that I read somewhere that he watched Keith Richards when he was studying.
Johnny Depp.
Yeah, Johnny Depp watched Keith Richards when he was, like, studying for the role, which if you've ever, like, seen him in, like, interviews and stuff, it really does fit.
That would
just
make
a lot
sense.
of drugs. It's a lot of drugs to get that way.
But let me tell you, this is probably... I have to say that this and maybe Edward Scissorhands are my favorite Johnny Depp roles, but I think that this is his most memorable in terms of just nobody could have done this except for Johnny Depp.
I know. It's weird because I cannot picture Jack Sparrow any other way and anybody else in that role. Like, it's hard to picture anybody being able to like live up to that. And it's just it really is hilarious because he does have this, he's both graceful and ungraceful at the same time. It's weird. It's like how he has that weird balance with lucky and unlucky. Like, he could be like a real smooth talker, or he can kind of like put his foot in his mouth sometimes.
And sometimes it's the same, like it's in the same conversation, you know.
I know, seriously, but it really is like fantastic. And how is it that he gets caught?
Well,
he goes in to save Elizabeth.
Yeah, so when Elizabeth jumps or falls into the water, a few things happen that kind of set in motion the rest of the film. And that's what I love about this movie so much, actually, is the fact that it's always moving, you know? Every action is followed by the rest of the movie, you know? Everything and every character development links so well to each other. So the fact that she falls into the water with the medallion lets out this, like, pulse that lets the Black Pearl know this is where the last medallion is, the 882nd piece of Cortez that they're looking for. And it's in this moment that Johnny Depp's character, Jack Sparrow, realizes that nobody else is going to save Elizabeth Swann, who's, like, drowning in the ocean. So he jumps in and saves her. But in so doing, the Commodore, he realizes that Jack Sparrow is indeed a pirate, and they have a very strict no pirate rule, and any pirates that are caught are hanged in Port Royal. So that kind of just sets in motion that whole thing. Yeah. I
think that part's so interesting because one thing that I love is when you watch the full movie and then you go back and rewatch it, when he's pulling in on that ship is Zoe Saldana's character's ship that he just sunk, that he borrowed from her. And he doesn't care, right? He doesn't care at all. He's just like, this is where I'm going, and he's just moving forward. And then when you see Elizabeth Swann fall, you're like, okay, this guy's a true neutral character. He doesn't give a crap. But then he goes and saves someone else, even though it doesn't seem like it's going to benefit him at all. And that's what I think is so interesting, because that's kind of an argument that goes on throughout the whole trilogy. It's like, is Jack Sparrow a good man? And they say that at the end of the movie, he's a good man. But it's like, he's also kind of neutral. So, you know what I mean? It's like, you're trying to find his alignment the whole movie. Or maybe I've just been playing too much Dungeons and Dragons. But
yeah, I was gonna say, way to pull out the Dungeons and Dragons. All right, if you were to put what kind of characteristic he is, what would you say? Like, is he like
his alignment?
Lawful, chaotic, lawful, neutral?
I think chaotic neutral.
That's what I would say. But then, for some reason, when it comes to like Elizabeth and then later Will Turner, I feel like he feels inclined, like he likes them or something.
Maybe chaotic good, actually.
I think that's what's interesting, is they keep calling him a good man, but then you see that he's really, for the most part, neutral. But then I wonder if it's good.
I would say that's actually probably a little more accurate.
I don't know. Yeah, because I feel like a lot of times he just screws over other people and doesn't really care too.
But I think in the respect of being a pirate, when it comes to material possessions, he will always revert to thievery. So
yeah,
when it comes to saving people and doing the right thing, I guess, for someone else's livelihood, I feel like Jack Sparrow is inclined to do the right thing. But when it comes to, paying off debts, accounting for one's mistakes or sins, bringing a boat back to Zoe Saldana's character, I don't think he cares. He's 100% live in the moment type guy. Once it's over, let's move on, love.
But then I also wonder if him jumping in to save Elizabeth was also part of that fate. Because that connects their stories. And it's like, why did she put on the medallion that morning? Then he jumps in after her. You see, like, these people doing things that they normally might not do. And I wonder if that's part of the, superstition of it all. It's like all this was, like, supposed to happen in the movie.
That's interesting.
It's a theory. It's running here. Let's keep talking, and I'll try to keep connecting stuff to it.
Yeah, make a video essay about it or something.
There you go. I do like that moment before he saves Elizabeth, where he's having that conversation with those two guards, and then they like have a conversation with each other because they're like guarding that ship, and then he like just like walks onto the ship while they're talking to each other, and he's just like over by the wheel, and he's just like messing around, and they go to like stop him, and then they like go back into like a conversation, and I love in the conversation.
Like they
where
just don't
they're like, "What are you doing?" And don't lie to us. And he's like, "Well, I'm here to commandeer a ship." And they're like, "We told you not to lie." And then that's when they start getting into that conversation where they're like, "Oh well, he might have been telling the truth."
There's a lot of that in this movie where like he will literally tell the whole truth, but it's so ridiculous that nobody believes him, and it's again perfectly in character for Jack Sparrow. So
I think it is like to just like if you do anything with enough like nerve and confidence. I know when I was at one of my last college, I was like inspired by Jack Sparrow, and there was like a parking lot at my college that was like they would like close the parking lots, but you would see spots were open, but they would have a security attendant there like standing there blocking it, so like you had to go park in this like really far off lot. And I remember one time I just pulled up in my car and just waved to the security guard as I went in, and he just waved back, and then I just went and parked, and I didn't belong there. I had no reason to be there, but I just kind of thought to myself like, let's Jack Sparrow and see what happens, and it worked.
you are literally a pirate who has been to the Caribbean.
I've been to Miami, guys.
What do you call it? Yeah, if they would have said anything, you should have just been like, I am not the droid that you're looking for.
They're like, your Jedi mind tricks don't work on me.
So it's in this next few scenes that Jack is thrown into prison because he's a pirate.
Then you have the doggy.
Yes.
Yeah, from the ride.
Okay, so that's another a great callback to the ride. Unfortunately, like later in the films, there's less callbacks to the rides, but in the first movie, there's quite a few.
Yeah. I mean, they like got all the big
lot.
ones.
I know. So in the Pirates of the Caribbean ride, if you haven't ever been on it, there's a scene where you're in the boat and you're driving or you're riding past a bunch of jail cells, and there's three people whistling at a dog who has keys in its mouth. Why they gave the dog the keys?
Yeah, there's no explanation for that.
There's no explanation.
Why not just hang it on the wall?
Yeah, exactly. So it's
That's
kind
a
of
perfect explanation.
Exactly.
Maybe the dog would actually like run away if you tried to approach it or something.
I don't know. But they included that in this movie, which is always one of like whenever that scene shows up on the movie, I'm just like, I remember that. That's nice, and I get like a nice smile on my face. But
It's just so cute.
this is also when the Black Pearl attacks Port Royal, and they're in search of the last medallion, the Aztec coin, or the piece of Cortez that they need to break the curse of the Black Pearl. And for whatever reason, they're drawn to Elizabeth Swann's room. Like they somehow know, or at least actually I don't know that they know, because
I think
it's
they're
only
just raiding the whole house.
they might be raiding the whole village, because there's
people going through the whole village.
You're right. So it's only just the two guys. What are their names, Anthony? You mentioned them earlier.
Poppy.
Pintel and Rigetti.
Oh,
Pinto
nice.
and Rigetti. Yeah.
I did not know their names, to be honest.
Yeah.
I've been watching this movie for like ages.
Uh,
Wait, which one's Pinto
Yeah.
and which one's Rigetti? Which one's missing an eye?
I got the guys.
Pintel.
That's Pinto.
Rigetti is
No.
like
Mackenzie Crook, the one who loses his eye, is Rigetti.
that's
Oh,
right.
and then the other guy.
Yeah.
That's cool that you knew their names, Anthony.
That is cool. Lee Aaron is Pinto.
And yeah, that combo right there, I like them. They're pretty funny.
Yeah, they have a weird like romance that like the rest of the crew on the Black Pearl is just like, ugh, you know, like
I know, and it stays like that through the entire entire series.
Yeah, it's pretty good. But anyway, yeah, so they're raiding throughout the entirety of Port Royal. You start getting glimpses of the fact that they can't die because they keep coming back, you know, like the scene will cut to another scene and like it's the same pirate showing up again, and you have characters like Will Turner like looking at them like confused, like, I thought I finished you already.
I thought I killed you last time.
Yeah. Anyway, so they steal Elizabeth Swann.
If you finish one twice, does it count as two?
Lord of the Rings joke. It went over my head for a little bit.
Good.
When Gimli and Legolas were counting their
kills.
their kills.
He's like, does that count as one? If I kill him again, does it count as two? What do I tell Gimli?
Yeah.
Oh man, I know.
that
That would have been like, that would actually have been funny. Like as he's like fighting these pirates, he just starts counting.
I
as a
wonder.
reference.
I wonder what they would have done with Elizabeth Swann's character had she not said parlay. Like, would they have brought her on the ship? Would they have?
I think we all know what they were going to do. Like,
Yeah.
dear God.
The Yo Ho Yo Ho song does say "We pillage and ravage." So
Yep.
anyway,
And even too,
I
like,
know
not to keep bringing it back to the ride, but I think at the beginning it was like a man chasing a woman through the house, but then they changed it where they switched the roles where it's a woman holding a broom chasing the pirate away.
oh, in the actual ride,
Yeah, and the ride just to make it less,
Less,
offensive and rapey.
yeah.
Man,
So yeah, it's a
really
good thing
bad
she
egg.
knew the word parlay.
What did you say, Anthony?
really bad eggs. I love that part of the movie. Really bad eggs.
What?
That's
Jack.
what Jack Sparrow says.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that.
On the beach. Really bad eggs. And like falls back. Oh man, Johnny Depp as Jack Sparrow. I mean, like thinking about it, like I don't know what this movie would be like if Jack Sparrow did not exist.
Right, yeah.
Or if he was played by, like, even other good actors like Keanu Reeves.
Even
or
if they
something.
didn't have Jack Sparrow in this movie, I think it would still be a fun movie, but it would not
Yeah.
be memorable.
It wouldn't have been as iconic.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been the sensation that it is, because
Right.
you can I can picture a story where it's Will Turner chasing down some pirates, and I feel like it would have been a cool, like coming to terms with who you really are story, which it kind of is still, but having the comic relief also be the cool guy in the movie is pretty
Okay,
cool.
but what if Jack Sparrow was cast with John Goodman?
I don't even know.
I'm just trying to think of other actors that it's like maybe. But even then, like, it wouldn't have been the same.
It needs to be I think it needs to be like a thinner guy, John Goodman. But still, I mean, John
Yeah.
Goodman would.
He's
actually-
really good.
He would be really funny.
He'd be more. I think John Goodman would have been scarier.
Yeah.
He would have been really scary.
He would have been a great Barbossa.
Yeah, he would have been a really good Barbossa.
Not that
Yeah,
we
man.
need another
Yeah,
Barbossa.
that guy was
Jeffrey
really good.
Rush did a fantastic job as Barbossa. Let's talk
Yeah.
about the pirates on the Black Pearl, because,
Yes.
Elizabeth Swann is stolen.
Jeffrey Rush, man. And that Barbossa, he did fantastic as Barbossa.
The scene where
I
he's like
mean-
offering her the food. And
Yeah.
then he gives her the apple, and it's like, I like that classic Disney reference too.
Yeah.
Right.
Now,
Very Snow White.
now taste the apple, and it's like a perfectly red, luscious apple, and knowing fairy tale logic, knowing Disney movies, and having that self-referential like moment is so good, because you have it like in the pit of your stomach, like something's wrong with the apple. Mm-hmm. And she notices it too. She
And
thinks,
he's calling her like stupid and innocent with that.
Right.
It's like, you're on our ship, you used a word that you hardly knew. You're out here in the middle of the ocean. And then he says, if you were to kill me, what would you do then? Like, I'm genuinely curious. What are your next steps here?
yeah,
It's
where are
like
you gonna go? You're in the middle of the ocean.
It's like she has pure gumption and that keeps her going, but she's not thinking like a pirate just yet.
No, she's too naive to make it out alive all by herself, or like to finish the story all by herself. Maybe she could keep herself alive. I mean, they clearly needed her.
Well, she does. I think she tricks them all with the coin and stuff like that. So I think he's like, it's almost like a pirate training moment.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, and I do love. Sorry, I know you want to talk about like the other pirates, but I do love the female characters in this film series. Like all the actresses ended up becoming really big. Like even Zoe Saldana's character. Like they didn't sexualize her at all. She was just a freaking pirate, and she was awesome.
And she was the captain of her own ship.
Yeah, and it wasn't like feminism that was like thrown in your face. They're just genuinely cool characters, and you just love them. I think when I was a kid, that's what I loved about Elizabeth Swann so much, was that she could like fall in love and stuff, but still learn how to be a pirate and still fight and be cool.
And she had flaws, and I think that's the most important part about like making a strong female character, is you need to make believable character flaws that complement their gumption, like you said earlier.
Yeah, and then she learns as she goes.
Right.
And then she learns the ways and then becomes a really bad egg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She does save her and Jack's life in that scene.
I'm actually like hoping that we do the next movie. What is it? The Curse of the Black Spot? No. Davy Jones' Locker? What's the second
It was
one?
Davy Jones something.
Oh, are you talking about Dead Man's Chest?
Dead
Man's Chest.
Yeah. I hope we continue doing these pirate reviews on Project Geekology in the future.
I'll be here forever.
Oh, yes, for sure.
Because Dead Man's Chest might be
My favorite.
my favorite
It's so
sequel
good.
to a movie. Like,
Not
because
Frozen?
Not Frozen. No, I Dead Man's Chest took everything good from Pirates of the Caribbean
It made it better.
and just pumped up the CGI and pumped up like the legends of pirate myth. And
And Davy Jones looked awesome, and he's so sad in his musician.
have you like gone back recently and like checked out like the Davy Jones CGI? It is one of the best uses of CGI ever, and
I know, it's pretty
still
impressive.
flawless. It's like what they did with Thanos, but 15 years earlier.
Yeah. And with Davy Jones, it's very detailed because he's got all these fish qualities, like the octopus head and the crab arm and his like leg, and then it's really crazy. And
The scene,
Bill Nighy does a really good job.
Yeah, we got to get into it like in another episode, but
Can we do
Yes,
that like
yes.
soonish?
sure. The scene and the organ, when he's playing the organ in his like little his room, and you see like the anguish on his face as he's like puckering his face and like his tentacles are going crazy. Dude, it's so cool what they did with CGI in that movie. That like is bar none the best CGI I think they did in that decade. But
Alright, let's get back to the movie we're talking about.
it's pirates. All right. So we are introduced to the idea of we're introduced to the idea that the pirates are cursed earlier on, but we don't understand why. And as you mentioned, they introduce like food to Elizabeth Swann, and she's eating it, and she's satiating herself, and then you start to understand that as Barbossa's explaining, like they haven't been able to sate their thirst or hunger or like physical needs in the amount of time that they've had this curse on them. And if you think about that, it's actually quite a terrible fate. You can never enjoy anything.
That actually changes that scene too. Actually, hadn't really thought of that when he's watching her and she's like famished and eating food and feeling satisfied. He must have been really jealous.
He's literally living vicariously through her. He's just like,
She's just
now
like
try
stuffing
this.
her face.
Now try this.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's actually a pretty interesting point.
Yeah, that was an interesting scene.
Yeah, when you think about it that way.
Like he was like watching her intently while she was scarfing down that food and guzzling down that wine.
Mm-hmm.
Like me.
Yeah, Jen has wine.
I know. What about you, Dakota? Where's your
My
your
water?
martini?
His water's
My
empty.
water is empty.
Dakota hasn't had any. He hasn't had any of his podcast cocktails recently.
Yeah, we haven't made martinis in a bit, but
We're like on low stock.
yeah, we got to get more of the what is it, martini and Rossi
Ingredients, yeah.
stuff. Anyway, Elizabeth Swann, takes a knife, and she actually took it earlier in the scene, but now she's feeling threatened by Barbossa, who's starting to take a more serious tone with her, and she's explaining that she doesn't believe in ghost stories, so stop trying to scare her. She's a grown woman at this point, but clearly you can tell she's terrified, and she's just putting on a front. She ends up stabbing him, and he looks surprised, like he's like like he kind of like plays along for a little bit, and she runs out into
But that's what he says, my favorite line, where it's like, I forget how he phrases it, but it's like, so you stabbed me. I'm just wondering what you were gonna do next. Like he's treating her like a freaking science experiment. Like,
yeah, well, she's a hamster in a cage, and she has no idea what's going on, but when she jumps out into the onto the deck and sees like all the pirates doing, you know, their pirate duties on deck, but like as skeletons, that's one of like just the movie kind of just shifts into like a more like supernatural story of, you know, pirate curses. And that's when Barbossa does the line that I said at the beginning of this: "You best start believing in ghost stories, Miss Turner. You're in one."
It's so epic.
Yeah, it's
You can't tell me that you don't remember that feeling in the theater. You can't tell me that you don't remember that, where he reaches out his hand. That was freaking terrifying.
Yeah. And then he drinks the wine, and like she like runs away scared, and the wine's just dribbling through his skeleton, and then like, after she leaves, he just starts like like he got the best kick out of that. Like that was his entire plan the entire time, is just to get a good scare out of her. So
I feel like you can dissect every scene of this film like as if it was like a book.
Yeah.
Like they're that interesting, and that there's so much going on in each one.
And there's levels to the story writing. Like, we didn't talk about how deceptive Jack Sparrow was when like choosing which ship to get onto, which would help him get onto another ship, which would help him get to the Black Pearl.
Well, I think technically that hasn't happened yet.
Will ends up saving Jack from the jail because he knows Jack had known about the Black Pearl, and so yeah, they join forces, and it's like way before. Oh my gosh.
You're out of shape, dude. You're so out of shape.
This just in: Dakota falls over during podcast episode.
Dakota laid back and couldn't.
Yeah, I laid back and I couldn't get up.
Alright, continue, Anthony. My bad.
But yeah, what we didn't mention was that earlier in the movie, Jack Sparrow gets caught. Like, he gets caught, but he attempts to run away. And during him running away, he gets into a sword fight with Will.
Yeah.
And so
and he also like kind of like holds up Elizabeth Swann as like he like uses her as a shield to get away for a little bit, which kind of like goes against what he just did in saving her life. But I think he's just an opportunist.
Yeah, essentially, him and Jack Sparrow and Will, they get into a sword fight, to which Will's boss, which is the blacksmith, happens to wake up from his drunken slumber and smashes Jack Sparrow over the head, knocking him out, and then takes credit for, you know, beating Jack. So yeah, we had to like talk about that. That's how Will and Jack Sparrow kind of like knew each other, to where Will saves Jack from the jail, and yeah, they join forces. And yeah, I love that sequence to where they go to that really big ship called the Dauntless, and I love it when they actually get onto the ship and like Jack runs down, and like he's like, all right, nobody move, we're taking over this ship. And like the way he runs down the stairs, like with his like hands up, I like the way he runs and his like movement, mannerisms. It just makes everything, just the simple thing as walking, look hilarious.
It's almost not fair for the rest of the cast because he steals literally every scene he's in.
It's also, exactly. He doesn't try to act super masculine, which is funny because I feel like, well, I guess in like even like Peter Pan, they describe Hook as being like kind of feminine, but like you're describing his arms being up is almost kind of like a feminine run, right? Like
it's a certain swagger that I wouldn't call masculine, but I also wouldn't call it feminine. I just think it's awkward and it's weird and it's so quirky that it's just Jack Sparrow.
Yeah, it's very, very quirky, and it's hilarious. Like whenever you see it, and yeah, there's like, all right, nobody move, we're taking over the ship, and then the crew like just starts laughing, and I want to know exactly what happens from that point to that crew like getting kicked out.
Yeah, that's true. I think they all just kind of left knowing that two people couldn't man that ship. So it's like you're not going anywhere, so it really doesn't matter, right? Or no?
Right, and then yeah, that you see them on the like that little skiff or like the rowboat, and they're like, oh, Will and Sparrow are taking the ship, and then they take the Interceptor over, and while everybody from the Interceptor goes over to the Dauntless to find Will and Jack, they sneak aboard the Interceptor and like steal it. It was such a clever scene. Even with Jack, like he disables the rudder chain and everything. In that moment, one of like the first mates of the Commodore is like, that has got to be one of the best pirates I've ever seen. Right, like when the Commodore earlier says that he's like the worst.
Yeah. That he like beats everyone.
And I love that there's a moment like that later in the series where like Jack uses a cannon to like launch himself onto the other ship.
Well, I mean that scene with the Commodore and the other guy. The Commodore says that twice. He says that's got to be the worst pirate I've ever seen. And the second time he says it, like just a minute later, after like Jack Sparrow's like shown what his true plan was, the other guy's like, that's got to be the best pirate I've ever seen. And he just like shrugs and it's just like, so it seems.
Yeah, so it seems.
And I love that they do kind of have a call back to that in the third movie, where he uses a cannon to like launch himself onto the Black Pearl. Mm-hmm. One of the deckhands says to I forgot his name. We'll talk more about it when we actually get to the movie, but I love in that scene where the guy's like, do you think he makes it all? Do you think he plans it out or just makes it up as he goes along? And it's like funny because it makes you really think that it's hard to tell, because Jack does plan things out, but sometimes it does feel like he does make stuff up as he goes along.
Yeah. With that in the last scene of the film, he had a lot planned out. Like
he really did.
He really had it all orchestrated, and things just kind of went to his plan. But then other times it's like, there's no way he could have planned out the ship sinking right as he got on the platform. And that's why I think he's just lucky. He's like lucky and unlucky at the same time.
What I love about Jack's arc throughout the movie is that he has the pistol with one shot in it. And he's saving it. He knows exactly the moment he wants to take Barbossa out. And it's solely meant for Barbossa. And he even like mentions like this shot isn't meant for you. This isn't meant for you. He understands later on what the curse of the medallions brings to people. So he works that into his plan to kill Barbossa. And it's this huge, like, again, everything is so well written, but like he's 3 steps ahead of everyone else, even after like being double crossed by Will Turner. Mm-hmm.
I always thought the bullet was meant for himself.
Well, yeah, the bullet was given to him.
Oh, so he could kill himself, but he decided he was going to kill Barbossa.
Yeah, he decided he was going to get off the island and use that bullet to kill Barbossa.
I love him so much.
He's such a great character. And I guess, I mean, not that like most of the pirate stories that we know are true. In fact, most of the pirate stories that exist are 100% fiction. I do believe that was something that was done to people who were marooned on islands. Was, they're given a bullet to like off themselves if worse comes to worse, or if they so choose. So they didn't even have to explain that in the story. You just kind of knew why he had, or why he was given that gun and the bullet. But yeah, so I thought it was such a cool thing at the end after he manipulated everyone and then finally removed the curse from everyone. He then used that shot to take Barbossa out.
So let's like move forward a little bit, because we are like an hour and 17 minutes into this recording. Jack and Will they commandeer the Interceptor, and this is where Will finds out that his father was a pirate, and he doesn't accept it at first, or he has a hard time accepting that. And they decide to go to Tortuga to find a crew, and this is where we get we meet up with Gibbs again.
Yeah, who
where
we spoke about
didn't
earlier.
see him since
Mr.
like the
Gibbs.
beginning of the movie.
The
I
lovable
love that
drunk.
I love that first exchange that you have with Gibbs. Well, this like second exchange where they like throw water at him to wake him up. You know, he like kind of like freaks out. They like he says like, "Hey, you know, we're looking for a crew." And then when they go to like get up, Will throws water at him, and Gibbs is like, "I'm already awake," and he's like, "That was for the smell." I love
Poor guy.
those.
I can only imagine how bad Tortuga smelled.
Oh my god.
And then he just like kind of agrees. He's just like,
Imagine,
Okay, fair enough.
imagine the people, like an island of people who were just drunk all the time, didn't have fighting, like
Oh
were
my
all
gosh, it
into
was so-
debauchery and like just didn't bathe. It would have smelled so bad.
one of my favorite jokes in the movie like happened in there, and it wasn't. Well, yeah, it was a joke where they go into that tavern and like everybody's like fighting and going crazy, and he goes to like have a conversation with Gibbs, and he goes up to Will and he's like, he looks around, he's like, keep a sharp eye out, and like everybody's just, there's like absolute chaos like happening around them.
It's like, what is he even looking for?
I know, right?
But then he gets like nervous.
Yeah, for real. He's just kind of like, I don't know where to start.
They do end up with a motley crew, a literal motley crew of random people who could be pirates. They could just be normal people who are down on their luck and want to start pirating. You do have like your stereotypical like guy with the parrot.
Oh my gosh. I love Cotton though. His name is Cotton. I absolutely love it because when the parrot says something, like I think the parrot said shiver me timbers, and then Gibbs is just like, oh, we assume that means yes.
Yeah. So let's just translate it, and he just goes with it.
And they're like, how did they teach the parrot?
Yeah,
Nobody
right.
knows.
There's a moment like later in the movie where the parrot says something, and then Gibbs was like, yeah, Cotton is right. The pearl is ours. Like, it was just like something like this is like, it was just like something like that had absolutely nothing to do with the situation, and like I loved it. Like I loved that like little humor right there. It was just like kind of tossed in there.
Yeah, so the motley crew of pirates is pretty funny. This is where they introduce Zoe Saldana to the cast.
It was so cool.
Yeah, and up to this point, like in Tortuga, Jack Sparrow is, bombarded with, random prostitutes who are like slapping him across the face. And he's in various like
Stages of denial.
Stages of denial, yeah, it's a good way to put it. He's just like, I didn't deserve that one, or I don't think I deserved that one. Maybe I deserve that one. And then when Zoe Saldana slaps him, I don't think she's necessarily
that's the next
prostitute.
scene though.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I'm going
he
back.
definitely deserved that one.
Yeah, I definitely deserve that one. I like that.
Yeah. I just like her character so much. Like, they kind of, like, have her hidden, and then she comes up, and it's like, you don't even know their relationship at all. Yeah. But it's just like, you can just tell, it's like, she was nice to him, and he just totally took advantage, and she's like, now I just really want my ship back. And then, too, when Will offers her that ship, and he's like, that ship? That one.
Yeah, right? He's like, oh, we're gonna get you a new ship. And she's like, oh, okay, yeah. And then Will's like, that ship.
That ship?
I love it. I love it so much.
And then I love Gibbs is like, oh, it would be bad luck to bring a woman aboard. And then either like Jack or Will say it would be bad luck to not.
Oh, really?
To not bring her aboard.
Oh, I actually didn't notice that. What I think is interesting too is like that kind of starts, that superstition is what starts the whole movie off. Like, you have Elizabeth Swann on board, and I wonder if Mr. Gibbs said the same thing then. Like, you can't bring a lady on board, and then this whole like crazy thing happens.
Maybe. Maybe that's just a superstition that he came up with.
No, I think that was actually like an old pirate superstition.
Oh, really?
That one was a real one.
Oh, I didn't know.
Because I had been researching an Irish pirate, and that was like a part of it. Or, like,
the Pirate Queen?
The Pirate Queen. Yeah, she was like that Molly something or the other.
Yeah, there was literally a Pirate Queen of Ireland. Yeah.
Yeah, she's really cool.
Yeah, on
I can look it up.
Netflix, right? They have that documentary
What?
series.
Oh, I
Is
hadn't heard that.
I didn't know about this.
Well, I mean,
Wait,
there's
tell me
a
more.
documentary series on Netflix about a woman pirate. I don't remember who it was, though.
Grace O'Malley is the pirate.
Oh, it's O'Malley, not Molly. Okay, you got it.
Let me look it up.
Yeah, I thought when I was like reading her thing, it was like her family were like sea merchants or something, and then she wanted to be on, but there was like a thing where it was like a bad luck to bring women on board in her story. I mean, clearly I didn't remember her name right, so take that with a grain of salt.
I don't
Let's see.
think it is.
The Sea Queen? It might just be like kind of based on her.
Barbossa and the crew of the Black Pearl, they have Elizabeth, and they go to the Isla de Muerte, or Morta. Is it Morta or Morte?
Isla de Muerto. Yeah, so Island of the Dead.
Right. And this is where they first attempt to lift the curse, because she gives off the false name that she's Elizabeth Turner, and they all think that she is the daughter of Bootstrap Bill.
Bootstrap Bill!
Bootstrap Bill Turner. What's so cool about this movie, and I always say that, like, this is the cool thing about this movie, but there's a lot of cool things, is the fact that it's so convoluted. Like, there's a lot that's going on. There's a lot of little things. Like, the fact that she calls herself
Miss Turner,
Elizabeth
yeah.
Turner.
You think
makes
it's like
the
a
pirates,
cute reference,
yeah,
but it's like a big deal.
It makes the pirates, like, decide that she's worth keeping to the end, you know? So, and that, you know, just sparks her being kidnapped and going here and there. So, yeah. So every little thing, every little decision that they made with the story pushes the narrative forward. And I like that so much about this first Pirates movie. My favorite scene in Pirates of the Caribbean, the first one, is when the pirates are walking underwater. They realize that the Commodore is outside of Isla de Muerta, and they're like going to be ambushed. So they don't want to remove the curse just yet. So Jack goes. He basically says, like, "Go get him" or something, and like nobody listens to him. But then they listen to Barbossa, who goes, "Boys, go take a walk." And they literally take a walk underneath the water. And it's like the coolest little like slow motion walk ever.
Yeah, it was a Jack in that scene. He's like everyone to the boats.
Yes, that's what he says. Yeah, but yeah, when they're walking underwater and it's just like the Pirates of the Caribbean music playing, and like the dun dun dun, that theme is playing, and they're turning into skeletons, like, and when they pass underneath the shadow of the boat, they turn into like their normal selves. Dude, it's so cool the way they did all that.
Yeah, no, that was a cool scene, and that was during the second time around. We missed where Jack and Will, they show up with the crew when they have Elizabeth, and they try to lift the curse the first time. Oh, well, they like discover Jack, and they're like, "How'd you get off that island?" Like, they're like trying to like wonder how do you get off the island? And you know, like they take him back to the ship. Will like shows up and reveals like who he is, and he strikes up a bargain that the Elizabeth goes unhurt, and the crew doesn't, you know, they don't get harmed either. And they toss Elizabeth and Jack off at that like same island that Jack was like earlier, like before the movie starts, like way years before.
The pirate base that they go to.
And so you find out that he was only on the island for not that long, because he had like this like whole legend that he was on the island forever, and that he got these like sea turtles where he like roped together, and he said with with his back hair.
He goes, human hair from my back.
From my back. But yeah, you find out that the island is a rum cache that rum runners would use, and this is where the part where like Elizabeth has like a plan to get him like really drunk so that she can like burn all the rum to create a giant signal fire. And yeah, like when he's like really drunk, he's just like, really bad eggs. And, like, yeah, because they're singing that song.
Yeah.
Edgar says, I love this song. I'm going to sing it with my whole crew.
I'm going to teach it to everybody.
But then the next day,
the signal.
when he's
What happened?
the next day when he's like, when he realizes what Elizabeth did, making the big, cloud of smoke, he goes, but why's the rum gone?
I know, she like burned everything. He's like, you burned all the shade, the food, the rum. Why's the rum gone?
I think in his mind, it's like not a bad, death. It's like we can just drink ourselves and with this like beautiful girl on this island. It's not the worst thing to happen to him. I think he was all right potentially just like dying there or like waiting for something to work out.
True.
And he even said that he's like, oh, the company is better this time, and he's like, the view is better too.
Yeah. He was like, this isn't as bad.
But yeah, the signal fire does work, and they get saved by the Commodore, and Jack kind of like strikes up a deal with the Commodore to pretty much get Barbossa and to like stop the Black Pearl, because it's like the last remaining pirate threat. And this is where they go back to the Isla de Muerte the second time. So yeah, they have like this whole plan set out, but this time Barbossa and the crew, they have Will, and they're gonna lift the curse. Now finally they have the right person. It's funny because Jack like pops up, and Barbossa, like the disbelief on his face is like, this can't be real. He's like, this is impossible. And then Jack's just like, it's improbable.
Yeah. That's actually a line Dakota uses on me all the time. Like, if I say it's impossible, he'll say improbable. And I didn't know he was quoting Pirates of the Caribbean until literally the last time I watched it. I was like, that's where you got that from. I didn't know
that I was quoting Pirates of the Caribbean. I think that's just something I say.
That was hilarious. And Jack has this plan all along. And Will picks up the cues pretty much and starts to go along with it. And they sick the crew onto the British soldiers that are out in the bay. An epic clash of immortal beings starts to happen.
I do like that line where Barbossa's like, so what'll it be, Jack? Two immortals locked in an endless battle
until Judgment Day and the trumpet sound.
Yeah,
something like that.
Barbossa has some great lines. But
he really does. Like, I mean, he just has like a fantastic command of the English language. When that scene in the beginning where Elizabeth says something when they first meet, and Barbossa is just like, we're just humble pirates, like talking about that she's speaking. What she's saying is too.
There's a lot of big words in there, Miss Turner.
Right, and then she says something to him, and then what was it that he says?
I'm disinclined to acquiesce to your request. And then like, she's just staring at it, and then he's like, that means no.
I know, that was such a good flip.
I love him so. Like, the more I think about it, the more I'm actually becoming a Barbossa fan. Like, the more we're talking about this, I'm like, I actually think I love him most.
When Barbossa shows up at the end of Dead Man's Chest is the best.
The coolest thing ever.
The best. It's the best way to end that movie. It's so good.
He's the best.
That was like the one thing I missed about that movie was Barbossa.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Then you get him back.
Yeah. Man.
Oh, there was one other thing that's like, this is slightly off topic that like I wanted to talk about. There's a scene, I wanted to get your guys' opinion on it, where we all know from the second movie what Jack's compass does. That it points you towards the thing you want the most, right? And when what is that guy's name? The Commodore, when he takes the compass from Jack and he looks at it and he says, a compass that doesn't point north. I was talking with a coworker about it. My coworker said that the compass kind of goes like slightly towards Elizabeth but then snaps back to Jack. Do you guys do you guys know that? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I have to examine the scene a little bit better because I didn't remember that until you just said it right now.
Like, when we watched it together, I, like, went back and I was, like, watching it, and to me it seemed like the compass stayed on Jack, and that almost makes me feel... I mean, I feel bad for... What is this? Norrington? Yeah, Norrington. So, I feel bad for him because, like, obviously he gets rejected by Elizabeth literally after she agrees to marry him in kind of just, like, such a crappy way, and she's really unapologetic about it. But that scene kind of makes me feel a bit better because... his goal at that time, like, his desire to get Jack imprisoned was stronger than his desire to marry Elizabeth. But I don't know, because then my coworker was like, no, the arrow kind of points towards Elizabeth. I don't know, I thought you guys might have known about that.
I don't remember. I haven't seen these movies in forever, so...
Okay.
But I do recall what you're talking about, and that does help him get to Isla de Muerto.
Mm-hmm.
I think for Jack, it's always pointing at Barbosa.
Oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's an interesting theory. I hadn't thought about that. Because he just wants to get revenge on Barbosa.
Yeah, but he knew that he couldn't kill him.
Mm-hmm.
There's a pretty epic battle. We talked a little bit about how, people are changing from, flesh and bone to literal bone. And there's some great play with some of those characters, like when Will Turner puts an explosive in one of their bodies and like traps three of them together.
That was cool.
And the guy's like, not fair. But I wonder, does he die? Does the body recompose after that? Either way, Jack's plan works. He gets the final piece back into the chest of Cortez, along with a little slice of his blood, because his blood was needed now that he had stolen the cursed coins as well. Yeah, so the curse is lifted, and he finally gets the opportunity to take that shot at Barbosa. And there's almost like a relief that washes over Barbosa. I don't know if you noticed that. It's almost like he's like, I can feel it. Mm-hmm. And even though, I mean, it must have, it's a bullet, you're dying. It must have hurt like heck, but the fact that he was relieved to be free of the burden of the curse and feel something for once was kind of cool to visualize. And I think they played that really well.
Yeah, I agree.
An interesting scene for me in the final battle is actually with Elizabeth's father, where he basically just hides out in a room and can hardly handle a skeleton hand, and then as soon as the battle's over, he goes out and pretends like he was celebrating with everyone. And it's just so funny because we don't really know who Elizabeth's mother was. We know nothing about her, but it's how did he have such a courageous daughter? He's such a coward. He just goes hiding in the room and fights for his wig back. He's pulling at his wig through the window, but it's you could tell he respects her, because then at the end of the movie when she defends Jack and chooses Will, he's kind of proud,
Right. I think that has his cowardice and her courageousness has to do with when they became the governors of Port Royal, because I don't think he was always commissioned there as the governor of Port Royal. I think he always lived a pretty cushy life. Mm-hmm. But while Elizabeth was very young, they moved to those islands. I'm assuming that's what we're seeing in the opening of the movie. Mm-hmm. So she's excited about the adventure. She's excited about all that change. And he's still a very pampered individual. That's true. So had Elizabeth Swann never had that opportunity to live in a place that's like a fort, it would be kind of. I don't
Maybe,
want to say
that's
that
where
it would
she
be,
gets her sense of adventure.
I think that's what it is.
That makes sense.
I don't know. I might be looking too much into.
No, that's actually an interesting theory. Yeah,
the
she had all that
characters and stuff.
excitement in her youth of like you're moving.
Yeah. Speaking about all of that, they they end up. The movie ends with Will Turner freeing Jack Sparrow from the gallows. Basically, he's about to get hanged, and
Yeah. That was actually pretty cool when he throws the sword.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Right
Yeah.
as the
Which is
the
just like
platform
at their
drops.
first meeting. He throws the sword to stop him, and then he throws the sword to save him.
actually, that's a good point. That's a good parallel. Like in the beginning, he throws the sword to like lock the door or to stop Jack from getting out, and at the end, he throws the swords to stop Jack from hanging to his death.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I actually never noticed that parallel. Good job, Jen.
Thanks.
But anyway, they save them. Poor Luna's making all kinds of noises back there. Norrington is basically denied the wedding that he was kind of promised earlier. You know, he's kind of a man about it. I kind of respect Norrington. You know, I feel bad for him. I also kind of feel like he's a jerk in this first movie, but as the series progresses, he's one of my favorite characters. But his choice to let her go freely is a big move for him, in my opinion.
Yeah. And it's cool the props that he gives Will about the sword, because he recognizes that it's really him making the swords rather than the blacksmith.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of little details in there. There's a lot of little details that we were able to dissect, and there's probably many more from just this one movie. I think we're coming up on a good amount of time for this podcast, so we're not going to stretch it out any further. Jen, being the special guest star of this episode,
I'm a star.
what do you want to say to end your discussion of Pirates of the Caribbean: Curse of the Black Pearl?
I really like the movie. It's really good. One of my favorites.
So you're going to start and end your discussion by expressing how much you consider it your favorite.
Ahoy, mateys! I've said all I need to say. I've said a lot.
What about you, Anthony?
There's only one thing to say: really bad eggs.
I mean, there are some really bad eggs in this movie. Like, a lot of these pirates are just, like...
Bad eggs.
They're just bad eggs. But I don't think Jack Sparrow is necessarily a bad egg.
He's a good man.
Drink up, me hearties.
Yeah.
Yo-ho. I really love this movie. I think that the way that they were able to capture the setting of, like, you know, being in the 1700s, 1800s, in pirate times is super cool. It never felt out of place. It always felt in universe, and it was very realized. So even though the characters were modern takes on like stereotypes and caricatures, you know, it still felt like it's probably the best like pirate movie, like a solid pirate movie that we've ever had. Even though like some of the sequels are just as good, if not better. I think the fact that this is just pirates and not like sea monsters
Or Muppets.
Or Muppets, yeah. I think this is this is the best like single pirate movie that we've ever had, at least that I've ever seen.
That means that you just weren't paying attention to the background character, because I'm pretty sure I saw Kermit somewhere in there.
Tempting.
Imagine.
No, I agree though. Pirates of the Caribbean is always a film series that I love to revisit. It's a fun film series to watch, and a lot of people give the second and third one flack, but I absolutely love those three films.
They're just all so good together.
They're just all they're so good together. I mean, they do start getting really crazy the more the more sequels that come out, but it went well because they already established the whole superstition thing with with the cursed pirates, so obviously Davy Jones is very nautical and very pirate, so they would obviously bring that in.
Mm-hmm.
So
Did you ever watch the fourth or fifth movies?
yes, I wasn't a big fan of On Stranger Tides, but Dead Men Tell No Tales
I don't think
was
I've ever
a better
watched that
step
one.
up from that.
Yeah, I haven't seen the last two.
Oh, so you haven't seen On Stranger Tides or Dead Man Tell No
No.
Tales?
Yeah, I haven't seen either of those.
Well, I mean, the real Pirates movies are the first three. They're the Gore
I agree.
Verbinski trilogy. It's the same director who did all three of those, and then On Stranger Tides was directed by Rob Marshall, and Dead Men Tell No Tales was Joachim Ronning and Espen Sandberg. So it was different people doing those movies, and it's notable that they are different people. Maybe one of these days we'll be able to make it down to some of those other titles and break down why they work or don't work. But
Yeah,
I believe
I remember like seeing like I think Penelope Cruz is a pirate, and I always thought like, oh, that would actually be that's pretty good casting. I think she can do it, but I just haven't watched the films.
yeah, we'll give it a shot eventually. That being said, thank you guys so much for listening.
Next week's episode is going to be us covering Attack of the Clones, every single Star Wars fan's favorite movie.
Yes, it is the best of the movies that we've gotten, and it's pretty crazy. Like nobody dislikes Attack of the Clones. It's literally so good.
It's
does this mean
so
we get
good.
to rewatch Attack of the Clones this week?
That means exactly that, Jen. That means exactly that.
That's so exciting.
Attack of the Clones is, it's ranked, Attack of the Clones, then Empire, so...
Yeah.
Agreed.
And then The Force Awakens.
Alright, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to us here at Project Geekology for our 25th episode. Next week, Dakota and I will be covering Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, so be sure to watch that in advance of our discussion. Be sure to find all links to our show and socials in the show notes, so that you can keep up to date on all Project Geekology news and updates. If you enjoyed today's show, share it on social media, review it on your preferred podcast application, or talk to us directly online.
Alright guys, have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.